Imagine a forecast meeting where everything looks right. Dashboards are full, CRM is updated, AI predictions are running, and yet someone still asks, can we trust this number? That's not a tooling issue. That's what forecasting looks like when ownership isn't clear. This is not a story about AI features. It's about why forecasting keeps breaking at scale, even when AI is in place. I'm Jelena and this is AI4Sales Edge, where we look at how AI actually changes execution, not just reporting. Forecasting is supposed to create confidence, right? But in many organizations, it's clear opposite. It creates tension, hedging, last-minute surprises. An interesting part, this often shows up after teams invest in better data, better systems, and AI-powered signals. So the issue isn't visibility, it's what happens or doesn't happen after risk become visible. And that's where forecasting consistently breaks down. Across organizations, the same pattern keeps appearing. AI can surface risk, stall deals, slipping timelines, inconsistent signals, but it doesn't define who must act on it. So deals stay in the forecast too long, optimism isn't challenged early, forecast calls turn into discussions instead of decisions. The problem isn't accuracy, it's accountability. In large enterprise environments, including companies like Zoom and Okta, the forecasting problem isn't visibility, it's authority. Clari is widely used to bring consistency and visibility into the complex global forecasts. The data is strong, the signals are visible, risk is flagged early, and yet even at that level, forecasting tension doesn't disappear automatically. Because when AI highlights a deal at risk, the real question isn't what the system sees, it's who has the authority to act on it. When ownership of forecast decisions isn't explicitly defined, deals stay in the number longer than they should. Not because teams doesn't know, but because no one is clearly accountable for saying this comes out now. In mid-market and enterprise teams, the same issue shows up lower in the organization as a hesitation to act. A similar pattern appears in organizations using Salesforce with Einstein forecasting, including teams like Dell and Schneider Electric. Einstein surfaced forecast risk earlier. Managers can see the signals, reps recognize the patterns, but insight alone doesn't change outcomes. When managers aren't explicitly accountable for acting on AI signals, when removing a deal still feels political, forecasts drift, even when the warning signals are clear. Einstein doesn't fail here. What exposed is whether ownership and decision authority have been designed clearly around the signal. Before AI, risk was visible. After AI, risk is visible but still unowned. After ownership, risk gets pulled forward. Revenue becomes more predictable, and visibility without ownership doesn't change outcomes. And here's the shift leaders often miss. AI doesn't fail because it lacks intelligence. It fails because organizations don't redesign decision ownership around it. When ownership is explicit, AI signals become actionable, behavior changes earlier, forecast stabilized, not because model improved, but because responsibility did. Designing ownerships comes down to three questions. Who decides? Based on what signal? By when? AI doesn't create discipline. It exposes whether it exists. Forecasting stability isn't about accuracy. It's about predictability. And predictability drives revenue. And this is where the same system starts to feel very different depending on where you sit. For sales leaders, it shows up as a late-stage pressure. The number looks fine until it suddenly doesn't. By the time risk becomes undeniable, the quarter is already lost. For RevOps, it shows up as authority gaps. The signal is clear, but no one owns the decision to adjust the number. For executives, it shows up as mistrust. The forecast looks precise, but still doesn't feel reliable. Same system, same AI, different seats. The common thread isn't data, it's ownership. If you're using AI in forecasting today, don't start by asking, is the model accurate? Do we need more data? Starts here. Who owns the forecast number? Who has the authority to remove a deal? At what point does evidence override optimism? If those answers are not clear, AI will only expose the problem fast. So take this question into your next leadership meeting. When a deal is clearly at risk, who is accountable for taking it out of the forecast? And when? Before quarter end? Before surprises? Because forecasting doesn't break because of bad data. It breaks because no one owns the truth. And when no one owns the truth, revenue becomes unpredictable. Subscribe to AI4Sales Edge. Real stories, real results, no fluff.